ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। So in the last class, we were studying from the 9th to the 16th verses of the 3rd chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, where we find that the Karma Yoga was explained from the perspective of Yajna. So for quite a number of classes we have devoted to describe this, the elaborate idea of Yajna. Today we will proceed to the succeeding verses, where we will find that from a different perspective, Bhagavan Sri Krishna is explaining the concept of Karma Yoga. So from the next verse onward, from the 17th verse onward, so we will find that the Karma Yoga is explained from the perspective of a self-realized person. Now, when a person, through Chitta Shuddhi, through the purification of his mind, has attained self-realization. So when you are doing karma, when you are doing your actions in a detached fashion, as we were indicating again and again, seek not, avoid not. That in whatever situation the life has placed you, there, as per your temperament, as per your skills, as per your responsibilities, you are supposed to take care of your duties in a specific manner. So you don't forsake that. You continue with that. You don't go on aspiring for more and more insatiable desires. You seek not, neither you avoid. You are quite aware of the fact that you are as if playing a role in a huge cosmic group activity. So in industry, everywhere we know that the group work, in the group I have a certain role to play. The same thing from the cosmic standpoint, that this world is vast, it has infinite dimensions. Yajna is going on in the various levels of various layers of existence, in the various dimensions. I have to play a very specific role in that. And I do that perfectly, knowing very well that I am just the instrument in the hand of the divine. It is the Lord and Lord alone, is God who is working through me. As in a very simple way, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that the mother feels love for the child. Do you think it's the mother who is loving the child? She is something almost helpless. God has implanted that love in the mother's heart. She cannot do anything other way. That love is something which is spontaneously flowing from her heart. Now, if she thinks that she is the one who is loving, then comes the wrong notion of agency, that I am the one. And from that, all the so-called suffering comes. The moment you think you are the doer, immediately the question of getting something in return comes. If I feel that way, that even by seeing a poor person, empathy wells from my heart, compassion wells from my heart, immediately I have to be aware of that fact, that I am constituted in such a way, God has created me in such a way that my genes are empathetic. My genes are altruistic. These are the words even in modern biology they are using. Previously they used to say the genes are selfish. In contrary to that, they have started saying the genes are altruistic. Because of the idea of yajna, we have been created that way. That compassion wells up. And if you really try to judge without any bias, without any attachment to this selfish ego, you will find that you are just an instrument. All those good qualities, I would have been built in such a way that I never feel for others. In society, there are such people, and they are considered as abnormals. They are not considered as normals. That's why we term them as psychopaths. The normal human being is bound to feel compassion, love to well from his heart. The more he purifies himself, that is something which is within. From where it came, I am already constituted that way. So why bring the sense of agency that I am doing? Why not feel that there is a larger force? Whatever I may term it, God, Allah, Ishwar, whatever I may term it. That larger force, the force much more bigger than life, is as if working through me, and I am just an instrument, and I am playing the role I am supposed to play, being an instrument. As SWami Ramakrishnananda used to say, he used to do tremendous amount of work from morning to evening. In South India, Swami Vivekananda has sent him to Chennai to start the centers in South with Chennai as the headquarters. And gradually it started spreading, lot of activities throughout South, and we all know, those who are from the Ramakrishna tradition, that what an immense, tremendous amount of work he did for the propagation of the ideas of Ramakrishna there. And people used to be amazed seeing him doing so much of work. They used to say him that how is it possible for you to undertake so much of responsibility? And his answer was something very unique, very wonderful, that I am just a pen in the hand of the author. Does the pen ever say that I have written so many books? It is the one who is holding the pen, he is writing. So that's the basic idea. It is the God who is working through me. When in the first generation, after when the order was started, the new novices were joining, the brahmacharis were joining the order, and seeing the great personalities of the Ramakrishna's direct disciples, each were great in their own place, in their own right. So seeing those illumined personalities, these young ones used to get overwhelmed. They used to say that how great they are. Can we ever be like them? And one of the direct disciples, Swami Premananda, who was the manager of Belur Math, who was in charge of taking care of these novices, used to say something wonderful in reply to that. He used to say, never try to become something. Become nothing, so that God works through you. It is our ego which, when it is cleansed, then God starts working through us. Our ego becomes the obstruction. Once we remove it, it is God who is working. We are just the mere instrument. That there are so many, there's this oral traditions. It is not in the scriptures. As per the oral traditions, so many nice anecdotes, episodes are there, even in the life of Radha Krishna. There's a very nice such anecdote that once Radha was asking Krishna that your flute is fortunate one. It is always getting your company. You have tucked in your loincloth, either it is in your hand, you are playing it, or it is always with you. How fortunate that flute is. For others, we get your company just for a while. The flute is always getting your company. And Krishna, in reply, showed the flute to Radha. Just see the flute. What do you see inside? Nothing. It's hollow. It's hollow. And Krishna said, be the flute. Once you can become that hollow, that nothing, then you become the eternal companion of the divine. Not only that, God will play music through your life. That flute is for the music, and God starts playing music through your life. And that's the life which is the most fulfilled life. So when we have this Chitta Shuddhi, when the heart has been cleansed, it takes you to a realization that this psychophysical existence is just a flow. Behind that, you are the eternal self, which is the Trikal Avadhita Satya. This technical word has very profound meaning. Trikal Avadhita. That when I think of my personality, what I find, that I was born at certain point of time, my existence started at certain point of time, it continues for years, and I know that it is going to end at certain point of time. So, it is not, the existence is not uninterrupted through all the phases of time, past, present and future. In past it was not, in future it won't be, and at present also it is going through constant change. But the real me is eternal. The psychophysical existence is just a flow. In all the religions, the mystics go to that realization where they become one with that unitary experience, that the one exists without any limitation, without any phase of time. Even in Christian mysticism, the famous Christian mystic Meister Eckhart, like Vedanta, he is echoing what he says, the real me is in eternal present. A wonderful term. Eternal present. If there is no transformation, the concept of time falls off. The concept of time comes only when there is a transformation. When there is no transformation, you are that in easiness, that pure unadulterate isness, that was, that is, that will be. There is no change. That is in the eternal present. When one gets established in that, it's not just I have read in the scriptures and I am just uttering those words, what I have read. It's just the lip service I am doing. It's not that. All the mystics from all the religions have went to the depth of their realization to have that unitary experience. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Shekhane shop shealer akra. All the fox howls in the same manner when they reach that realization. As if all, you will find in the forest when one fox howls, all will be howling, as if to acknowledge that. So here also Sri Ramakrishna is saying, if you go to the mystic tradition, you will find they all speak of that unitary experience, which is ineffable. It is very difficult to describe, but it is something very, very confirming. They go to the depth to realize that self. And then the question comes, for such a person, does action still exist? Does all the so-called do's and don'ts which are applicable for us is still applicable for him? So here now Krishna will be taking Karma Yoga to a much profound dimension, where he will say something which we have misunderstood for ages. Swami Vivekananda used to say that sometimes we are text torturers. Once we get biased to some way of life, some opinion, we try to explain everything as per our bias. We torture the text, and that's how we will find in all the religions the text torturing has happened. And we become conscious liars. We will go to the succeeding slokas. Swami Vivekananda always used to say, go back to the source, go back to the Upanishad. Sometimes the interpretations can be misleading. We will just go now in next succeeding few slokas, we will find that how misinterpretation of the core scriptures can lead to some historical blunders for which we may suffer for generations. Let us go to the 17th sloka, where Bhagavan is speaking of Karma Yoga even for a person who have attained self-realization. He will be speaking of it in the 17th, 18th, 19th, in the 3 slokas if we take together. That's why we say never take a slok, just one slok alone, and try to interpret it. Because when someone is speaking, there is a connection between what he has said previously and what he is going to say. If I suddenly pick up some words, it loses its context, it goes out of the context, and you must interpret it in a totally different way. Sometimes we find in the media that happens, that the context has not been taken into account. Some words has been taken and it is being propagated, and we find it's misleading. The person was intending to say something, and just the opposite meaning comes out. And that has happened with the slokas of Gita, which we are going to study. So without much introduction, let us go to the sloka, and then we will try to find out that how the misinterpretation happened. The 17th sloka of the 3rd chapter. Yastu atma ratireva syat. Yastu ratireva syat. Atma triptascha manavah. Atmanyeva cha santushta. Tasya karyam na vidyate. So literally what he's saying, the person who is delighted in Atman, yastu atma rati. Rati means when you are in delight, being in companion with someone. You are with your loved one, and the joy that comes out of it is rati. So here, the companion is not any other person, it is Atma, your own self. You are in communion with your own self. The bliss that comes when you are in communion with your own self. Atma triptascha manava. For his tripti, for his satisfaction, nothing else is required. Just diving deep within his own self, he enjoys immense bliss. What's the psychology behind it? The science behind it? We will try to describe. But let us take the first literal meaning of the sloka. That Atma Tripta, the one who is self-fulfilled, who needs nothing, who is enjoying the bliss within. Atman neva cha santushta. He is totally fulfilled. He has a joy in the Atman alone. He is satisfied in the Atman alone. Santushta means he is satisfied. For his satisfaction, he needs nothing else. Tasya karyam na vidyate. For him, there is no obligatory duty to be performed. So now if you take this sloka out of context, we will make a big blunder. That once you go to the realization, you have nothing to perform. That has been interpreted for hundreds of years. We in the Vedanta tradition, there are so many schools. Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishta Advaita. And there are some subtle differences in the way they believe. But they are all in unison in this point. As per the karya, the duty is concerned, they all have interpreted it as that he has gone beyond sense of duty. That once he goes to the realization, there is no duty for him. He can remain actionless. We forget in this chapter itself, there were slokas in the 7th and the 8th sloka, where Bhagavan himself, what he was saying, that even for the maintenance of your body, you cannot stay without action. There cannot be action, the state of actionlessness. That action has to go on. Naishkarmya is not possible as long as I am in the body. In the 6th and the 8th sloka, if you remember what the slokas were, Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthatya karma krit karyate hyavasha karma sarva prakriti jair guna. In the 6th sloka it was mentioned. In this chapter itself, we have already studied that there is no one who can remain without action even for a moment, because we are compelled to act by the gunas. The Sattva, Rajatama, the three gunas. The Prakriti is always working through us. We have to work. Even to maintain your body, Sharira Yatra, in the 8th sloka as I mentioned, you have to work. There cannot be a state, in an embodied state, without action. That was mentioned. But when interpreting this sloka, suddenly we find they say, yes, there is a state. That yes, most probably that action is a must till you are not illumined. Once you are illumined, there is no need for action. When we will go to the next sloka, we will find that that's not what Bhagavan is intending. Let us try to understand between the lines what it is being mentioned here. That there is the sense of duty that falls off. And we make a big blunder here. That we take action is synonymous to sense of duty. And when I am doing action means out of sense of duty. But there can be action without the sense of duty. It's not from the sense of duty. The action can be spontaneous. Just the way we were saying, the instrument, when you are an instrument in the hands of God, there is no sense of agency. Action is still going on, but not with a sense of duty, because you know that you are just an instrument in the hands of the divine. So the man who is established in the self, for him, all the sense of duty falls off. Now, let us try to understand this karyang na vidyate, the sense of duty, from where it arises. In Vedanta, they say the moment because of ignorance. Because of ignorance. From where the sense of duty arises? Because of ignorance. Ajnana. What is Ajnana? From where it came? That I am the Atman. That Atman gets reflected in the psychophysical existence, and I become one with the psychophysical existence. There's a nice character, the Greek legendary character, Narcissus. Many of you have heard the word narcissistic. This word narcissistic came from the Greek legendary character Narcissus, a very handsome prince. He was so much infatuated by his own beauty, so much self-possessed by his own beauty, he would never care for any responsibilities, for any relations, nothing. He was always, busy. He was engaged in seeing his own beauty. He was absorbed in his own beauty. He saw his own beauty reflected in a reservoir. He was so infatuated, he took the reflection to be real and wanted to embrace it. It jumped on the reservoir, drowned and died. So in spiritual sense, we all are narcissistic, like Narcissus. The Atman, the glorious Atman, which is beyond annihilation, beyond death, it is always majestic, it's in bliss. It sees its reflection in the psychophysical existence and takes the reflection to be real, and as if dives into its psychophysical existence, gets identified with it, and that's the cause of its suffering. How the suffering starts? Just that example which we give again and again, that in a petri dish, just see a microbe. It is moving haphazardly. Through a microscope you are looking at it. All the microbes are moving haphazardly. They are having no as such direction. And you just drop just a small drop of nutrient in the center of the petri dish. Now you will find all the microbes have gathered direction. They are moving towards it. Now instead of that nutrient, if you give some toxin there, they will move away from it. So here it will explain the moment we get identified with the psychophysical existence. The Atman got identified, the Brahman got identified with that microbe body, the ignorance starts. What happens? It thinks, if this body dies, I die. So this identification with the body makes it move towards the nutrient. Why? That yes, that my body's sustenance means my sustenance. That ignorance has dawned. From ignorance comes that ego, asmita, ahankara, that I am this. I have to live eternally through this body. I forget that the eternity is being echoed. Just I'm standing in front of the mountain, I shout my name, my mind own name is echoed back. That's what is happening. The self is echoing through our psychophysical existence, saying, you're eternal, you're eternal. And I think that psychophysical existence is eternal. But the eternity is something which is already with me. I don't have to realize it through the body-mind complex. The sense of duty arises when I get identified with the psychophysical existence. That now, what happens? Now, as the life becomes more and more complex, the basic thing is that there are certain things which is going to sustain me and all those whom I think mine, and there are certain things which is not going to sustain me. So from that, this sense of this egocentric existence, the sense of duty comes. But when we go to the realization that I am the self, not this body-mind complex. Now the entire biological evolution has happened from that ignorance. Just see, the microbe knows very well that though something is saying behind it is echoing that you're eternal, it knows very well a little change in the external condition is going to kill him. His psychophysical existence is going to be over. A little more heat, a little more humidity, a little more change of the environmental, this weather conditions will going to kill him. But it wants to be eternal through the body. So what it does, the entire evolution, biological evolution is the product of that ignorance. How it has happened? Now it, hearing that echo of eternity from behind, which is trying to realize through the body, through the psychophysical existence, it starts evolving. How? It will start conglomerating with other microbes, start forming a body, and start dividing. There's a division of labor. Just take the human body at last. It's such a sophisticated body, but it is actually a conglomeration of billions of such small cells, individual cells. They have this wonderful division of labor. You do the circulation, I do the digestion, you take the respiration part. Why we have evolved, conglomerated? So that the echo which is coming from behind, that you're eternal, that is realized more and more through this body-mind complex. The biological evolution cannot go through eternity. As a human being, we have developed that faculty to realize that the infinite can never be realized through this flow. This is a futile attempt. I can never do. I'm already eternal. Somehow, because of that ignorance that I am this reflection, all this evolution has happened. Now the renunciation dawns. I know because of ignorance that sense of unfulfillment has developed. I'm already fulfilled. I'm already in bliss. I'm already eternal. There's no need to be attached to this psychophysical existence and try to evolve biologically to realize that eternity. It is already there. And from that retreat, this type of sense of fulfillment comes. Yastu Atmarati. He is now satisfied with himself. He is enjoys the bliss within himself. Atma Tripta. There is no need for the world, external world, to satisfy me. I am always in bliss. That our idea that the bliss can be obtained from attaining the objects of desires is again another ignorance. Why it is ignorance? If you try to find out the nature of bliss which we have by acquiring things, constantly we are trying to acquire things. From where that bliss comes? That bliss never comes from acquiring things. The bliss comes from desirelessness. It is never from the object's fulfillment of the desire. You will say, how? That I was craving for the latest model car, certain car which my neighbor has, I also want it. And when somehow, by taking loan or in whatever way, I at last managed to get the car, a tremendous happiness. I felt that tremendous joy. And you say that it is a desirelessness which gives you happiness. It is not the fulfillment of desire. But if you try to find out the nature of the mind, whatever desire may be there in my life, have ever the desire gave me happiness? No. Very nicely Swami Vivekananda used to explain. Our mind is like a lake. Each and every thought waves, feelings are like the waves on that lake. All our thoughts are like the vritti, like waves in the lake. Now when a lake is turbulent, it has a lot of waves. Can you see the bottom? Never. The lake has to be tranquil. The water has to be transparent. Then I can as if see the bottom of the lake. So Swamiji is saying, Swami Vivekananda in Raja Yoga lecture, he's saying that our mind is like the lake and the real me, the self, is just as if the bottom of that lake, of that reservoir. It is behind that mind. When the mind is turmoil, full of desires, distractions, you can never realize the self. Now the self has three factors. What is the self? Sat, Chit, Ananda Swarupa. Sat means existence. It is something which is Trikala Vadhita, that the real me is something of which I am aware. Even when I close my eyes, my ears, all the sense I close, I have no interaction with the world. I have stopped my thought waves. I can never get rid of that constant idea that I am generating from within me. I am always aware that I am. This I am speaks of Sat Swarupata, Chit Swarupata, your existence and your awareness of that existence. You never forget that. Whether you are happy, whether you are full of dejection, sorrow, you always know I am. I am, you never forget. So when the mind is turmoil, selective filtration happens. I never forget that I am. That is always there. But something is filtered out. The bliss factor, that Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat and Chit never gets filtered out. That we are always palpably realizing. That is always there with us. What gets filtered out, what we cannot realize is that Ananda Swarupata. The self is bliss. When the mind is full of turmoil, that bliss factor gets filtered out. It's just like the selective filtration. In the olden days, if you go to Rajasthan, all the palaces, in the windows, you will find they used to use mica. The glass was not there in those days. They used to use mica sheets. Why? In that hot weather, mica has the property of insulating heat, but it allows the light to pass through. So that is a selective filtration. It is allowing the light, but it won't allow the heat. So you can be very cool, but your room is lighted. So our mind also does the same type of selective filtration. It never filters out that your Sat Swarupata and Chit Swarupata, their awareness that you are. That is always there. Ananda Swarupata gets filtered out. Now when I have thousands of desires, from that suddenly one desire becomes prominent. Every day small desires I have, and suddenly the desire to get that latest model car becomes prominent in my mind. So what happens? One wave starts engulfing all waves. Now your mind doesn't have 1,000 waves. It has only one wave, similar wave, again and again is rising. I want that, I want that, I want that. And when you manage to get that, for the time being, there is no wave. The wave has now become calm, subsided. And now you feel bliss. It is ignorance. From ignorance, I think it is that thing which has given me happiness. But it has never happened. Actually, when the mind becomes calm, the Ananda Swarupata, which was getting filtered out, that now starts percolating through your body, mind, senses. It is coming from within. It is welling up from within. All happiness comes from let go. And I am desiring something. The moment I get it, a relaxation comes, a let go. And the bliss which is within, that wells up. It never comes from outside. So now you will understand, when we stop chasing after the desires, it gives us happiness just for the time being, and that also doesn't come from the world. The world advertises happiness, but it can never give you happiness. The happiness, even that fraction of second which you got that happiness, for the small moment you got that happiness, it was from the self which was welling up. The world was just an advertisement. It can never give you happiness. It was welling from within. But again, new desires comes and covers up your happiness. Again, the waves develop. Why? Because of that wrong notion, it is the thing outside which can give me happiness. If I would have known the bliss is always within, I just have to have that let go, that relaxation, keep the mind free from all desires, then that happiness is something which is always with me. It becomes something like Taila Dharavat in the scripture they say. When you pour oil from one vessel to another, there is no interruption. Because of the viscosity, it's a constant flow. Your happiness becomes something like that. It becomes Taila Dharavat. So now think of that happiness compared to our happiness which comes after a lot of stress and strain, a little fraction. It's just in the words of Ramakrishna, our happiness, the worldly happiness is just like the water. You just, drop water in a very hot pan. In a red hot pan you pour water. The water just stays there for just a very small moment. Immediately it evaporates. Ramakrishna is saying that worldly happiness is like that. It's just like a flash. It's gone because of the wrong notion that happiness is something outside. We're constantly chasing that. If we know the art of let go, then the bliss is something which wells from within and which is always there with you. And that's the thing which is far, far superior, superlative than this all trivial happiness. And that's why even in the scripture, in Taittiriya Upanishad, we will find that there is a section which is called Anandasya Mimamsa, that investigation into the bliss, and where it says that all types of pleasures is only a fraction, is only just a fraction of Atmananda, the bliss which is from Atman, the bliss of Atman. Etasya eva anandasya matram upajivanti. That the happiness which we get in our life with the trivial pleasures is just a fraction of that real happiness. So one who have been established in the self. So it is a nice, this even nowadays they say the philosophy is in the language. If you study the language of any culture, try to find out that how that language has evolved, you will find the philosophy of that culture behind that language. Very interesting that for a sannyasin in a Hindu monk is called Maharaj. Now Maharaj means the emperor, the king of kings, and a monk who has nothing. He has nothing to possess. His life is just a very, very humble life. There is no so-called worldly abundance. And he is being termed as Maharaj, the emperor. You know why? Why this term Maharaj is for the sannyasin, who is just a person who has no wealth, no property? Now, it's very interesting that richness, what is richness? When I have wealth, that what it speaks of, that when I was poor, I had various wants. I want this, I want that. I could never fulfill. And have the idea, when I become rich, I will be beyond all wants. I will get all the things. So the idea, real idea of richness is you are going beyond wants. The more you go beyond want, you are rich. Now the paradox is here. The more we accrue wealth, we become extremely poor. We have only wealth, nothing else. That why he is poor? He has only money, nothing else, no happiness, nothing. Because it has increased his want so much that nothing can satisfy him. He is obsessed by his want. More and more and more. So he is an extremely poor fellow. But this person, the so-called wandering monk, who is established in his self, he has gone beyond want. So who is the rich person? The one who has gone beyond want. It doesn't speak of the wealth which you have. It is a very subjective feeling. If you have that subjective feeling, I have no want, you are the richest person. You have gone beyond the want. So that's why a wandering monk who has gone beyond all the wants is called Maharaj. So that's the idea here in this sloka. Now, for him, there is no karya, no duty. Now, if I think that he becomes totally actionless, so there again we will be making a big mistake. As I told, that let us not read these slokas individually. It has to be connected with the succeeding slokas, because Bhagavan is speaking something in continuity. So this doesn't imply actionlessness as something imperative that follows enlightenment. That the moment I get enlightened, I become actionless. So we will have to study the succeeding verse. Just in this context, it reminds me of a very funny anecdote which Sri Ramakrishna used to say. That the moment we get biased, we start understanding things in a totally distorted fashion. He used to say a very interesting anecdote. But there were two weavers. The two weavers, they were friends. These two ladies, they were this woman, they were friends. They were as a child, they were friends, and then after marriage or something, for a long time, they haven't met each other. They were in different towns. So one day, by chance, this one of this weaver was passing by the road of the other weaver, her friend. And by chance, they both met. And the one who was staying there, she invited the other, please come to my house. So the guest weaver and the host weaver, that's how let us try to understand. So the host weaver invited the guest and told, after such a long time we met, just please come, let us have a chit chat. Please sit. Let me go and bring some refreshment for you. Now, very interesting, the host, as she is a weaver, she was in her house, was actually with a lot of cotton balls, she was weaving something. So all the cotton balls were spread out. When this guest weaver came, she's also a weaver, she had a look, she just looked around and found one of the ball, this cotton ball is very attractive, the color. She was very lured to get that. Now, the host said, let me go and get some refreshments for you. So when she went in, the other couldn't resist. She was so lured, she picked up that ball, cotton ball, and where to hide it? She hid it under the armpit. And she was sitting, with the arm pressed, she was sitting. Now the host came with the refreshments. Now when the guest was having his refreshments, the host weaver realized that one of the ball is missing. And she was a bit surprised where the ball has gone. And seeing the guest, she realized that she has hidden it under the armpit, because the way she was sitting, she realized. Now how to get it? That was quite expensive. How to get it back? She just cannot simply charge her directly. That will be too rude way to just ask for it. So she devised a plan. She told, after such a long time, the host told, after such a long time we met, I'm so elated, I'm feeling like dancing. Come, why not we dance together to just celebrate this occasion? Naturally the guest weaver was not willing. She was just again and again somehow trying to find out some pretext not to. And then as the host went on insisting, at last she had to agree. Now both got up. Now the host was dancing freely with both the arms raised. And the guest weaver, she was dancing with only one arm raised, the other arm was pressed. She cannot raise both the arms. The host asked, is that the way to dance? How peculiar way we are dancing. Just see I'm dancing so freely with both my arms raised. The host told in Bengali, Je Jamon Jane Ban. As you know, I don't know to dance with this both raised, hands upraised. I know to dance this way only. What to do? So Sri Ramakrishna used to relate this anecdote and say that if you are biased, in the scripture also some slokas you will take and put it in your armpit and your dance now won't be free. You cannot dance freely. Because of your bias, because you are lured to particular type of idea, you have pressed your arm. Now you are no more free. So if we connect it with the next sloka and don't try to torture the text, interpret it as per the words, we will find that it gives a wonderful meaning. As Swami Vivekananda used to say that the basic idea of Karma Yoga is seek not, avoid not. That you will find related in the next sloka. That the one who is Atma Tripta, who goes beyond the sense of duty, but that doesn't mean that all action falls off. Actions still continue. In how? Let us read the sloka and then we will go to the meaning. That the one who is Atma Tripta, for whom Karya na vidyate, all the actions has fallen, all the sense of duty has fallen off. For him, what he is saying? In the next sloka, Naiva tasya kritena artha. Na eva tasya kritena artha. That he or she has no object in this world to gain through his action. That why do we do action? To get something, isn't it? So there is nothing in this world, there is no artha, no objective which he has to gain through action. Naiva tasya kritena artha. The next phrase is very important. Na akrite neha kaschana. Nor does he or she lose anything by non-performance. He has neither to gain through action, nor he has to gain anything by inaction. That's artha. The word artha means purpose. He has no purpose for inaction also. This is the thing which is the catch point. He or she has no purpose. He has nothing to gain through action. Neither he or she has to gain something through inaction. What it is indicating in our egocentric life. What happens? Some job. I want to join. I want to get that appointment. Why? From outside it looks a very lucrative job. It will give me power. It will give me position in life, prestige in life. It will give wealth. And when I am in the work, now I find there is lot of office politics, bossing, and I get fed up. And now I think, enough of it. Let me go away from it. Let me run away. I will try to get other job. At least let me leave this job. From our egocentric experience, what happens? Sometimes there is a purpose. We have a sense that I will gain something by getting that job. And then again we have a sense that I want to go to my security zone, comfort zone by avoiding this work. So actionlessness also is egocentric. Of course, action is also egocentric. Actionlessness can also be egocentric. But a man of realization, neither he has anything to desire for, nor he has to go to the comfort zone because it is giving him challenge. He has to run away from it. So that's the real meaning. Means he does the work. Once he has gone to the realization, he knows very well. He is the witness. The body-mind is going through a flow because of the position in which it has been placed by some bigger plan. It has been placed. It is going through that life through a flow. Sometimes situation comes in which it is in favorable circumstances. It as if is in through the pleasures. That also he or she is witnessing as he is established in the self. And when it is going through the turmoils, tensions, challenges, it is witnessing. It's not me. I am just the experiencer. As when Sri Ramakrishna was suffering from cancer in the last days, when anyone used to ask that, sir, how are you? He used to say, Shorir tar dukkho jane, mon tumi anande thako. The body knows its suffering. O mind, be at peace. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that a man of realization, an illumined soul, is like a ripened coconut. When the coconut is unripe, it is impossible to separate the shell from the kernel. They are all intertwined. When the coconut is ripe, you take the ripe coconut in your hand and just shake it. You will find that the kernel has got separated from the shell. So when you realize that you are the self, your shell has got separated from the kernel. The body-mind goes through because of its past momentum. Just the example which we give, that suppose the fan is revolving. The moment I switch it off, immediately it doesn't stop. Because of its past momentum, it will go on its motion for some time to stop. So for a man of realization, the desires has fallen off. He has switched off his desire. But the psychophysical existence has to continue because of its past momentum, the momentum which it has started. So let it go on. In whatever situation it is going on. As per the plan of the divine, let it go on. I am not in any way attached to it. So your attitude becomes seek not, avoid not. So that's the idea. Just see that that a man of realization gains nothing through action, neither he gains anything through inaction. That's the idea we have to link to understand with the previous sloka, to understand the idea of duty. The duty comes from the sense of that I need something, I have to avoid something. So neither you need something, neither you have to avoid anything. So that's the idea. So he or she has no object in this world to gain by doing action, nor he or she has any object to gain through inaction. Nor he or she has the need for depending on anyone. Na cha asya sarva bhuteshu kaschid artha vyapasraya. See, in our life, all our happiness is extraneous. Either through relations or through wealth or through position, status in life, we get the happiness. They're all extraneous. For him, all those extraneous means has fallen off because he has been established in that intrinsic bliss which emanates from the self. So he or she there is no need for depending on anyone for any desirable object. That's what is in the second line it means. Nacha asya sarva bhuteshu kaschit artha vyapasraya. So that's why the idea is that when you get established in the self, then the body-mind complex, as per its inherent nature, swabhava. These ideas in the succeeding chapters of Bhagavad Gita will come. That we cannot forsake our swabhava. As per the situation in which I am being born, the family in which I am born, the culture in which I am born, my body-mind has developed some inherent tendencies. The taste, even the food, all the taste for the food is something which is acquired. The culture in which you are born as a child, from small children, the food which is tasty, very tasty for you, may not be tasty for others. Because all those we develop through those culture, we those develop through the upbringings, our inner temperaments. So, as per Swabhava, the body-mind has to work. As per the circumstances, it has to go on. So, seek not, avoid not. As we will go to the succeeding sloka, Bhagavan Krishna himself will give this example of seek not, avoid not in his own life. We will come to it gradually. So that's why I am saying that we all have to study the slokas, we have to connect them to find out the real meaning. Otherwise, what's the result? We will find that actionless becomes our highest ideal. That all the action is just for our secondary details, is for our evolution. Once we evolve, we are beyond the action. And that leads to a type of compromise, a laziness. In the name of religion, all the hypocrisy starts. Even if you are not a realized soul, you pose as if you are a realized soul. And actionlessness is your way of life. Swami Vivekananda used to say, the shortcut to tamas is the so-called apparent sattva. That you just have to show that you are very sattvic, and that's the easy way of going to that tamasic state. Sometimes jokingly we say that meditation is the most respectful way of doing nothing. That you are doing nothing, and you will be respected for that. I mean, it's meditation we shouldn't take in that negative implication. But what's the idea behind that? The most of us sometimes resort to spirituality with the idea that it is something equivalent to that actionless. No. That we are not that our spiritual evolution is not to make us veggies that don't react. It is not a state of anesthesia where you don't feel. It is a state of extreme awareness. You're aware of all the things which are happening, but you are detached. You are not in the flow. You are out of the flow, watching the flow. And that's the idea which Bhagavan is trying to explain to Arjuna. Just if you take the context of Gita, it started with the idea Arjuna wanted to renounce. He wanted to go away from the battlefield, not to fight. On this context, the teachings of Krishna. So here, the question of running away doesn't come at all, even when a soul is realized. Even for a realized soul, the idea is, once you're realized, you are immersed in the bliss of yourself. The so-called external world with its psychophysical existence goes on. It doesn't disturb you. It goes as per the circumstance. It may be sometimes elated, sometimes maybe in the challenging circumstances. But as you are not attached to it, you can see it as if with a bird's eye view, without getting in any way disturbed by it. So neither you seek nor you avoid, just as an instrument. You continue with your life even after going to that realization. So there are the two states. In Bhagavad Gita, these terms are very important. Aruruksha, Yogarura. When you are aspiring and when you have went to that realization, you have ascended that. Yogarura, you have ascended the yoga. Aruruksha, you are aspiring to reach that state. For both, karma is something which continues. Only the sense of duty falls off. That I am not doing it with a sense of duty. It is just going on spontaneously, just as a flow, in a very detached way. This body-mind complex is placed in a particular circumstances, and based on its swabhava, it is working. As in the Bhagavad Gita's own words, guna guneshu vartante. It will come. All these words will come. It's the interaction between the gunas by which it is going. I am apart from it. So it is not the actionlessness which is speaking of. Even for a realized soul, action can go on. And that will be spoken of with the example of King Janaka in the succeeding slokas. We will come to it as we proceed to the succeeding slokas in the next class. So thank you all. Namaskars. We will again continue from the next sloka in the next class.